Well, we're here with our friend, Representative Mike Lawler. Well, there are breaking events. There are a couple other things I want to talk about as well, Mike, but we have very basic information here from the president. I'll be very interested in the details. The president says, I'm very proud to announce that Israel and Hamas have both signed off on the first phase of our peace plan. This means that all the hostages will be released very soon. Israel will withdraw their troops to an agreed-upon line as the first steps toward a strong, durable, and everlasting peace. All parties will be treated fairly. This is a great day for the Arab and Muslim world, Israel, all surrounding nations, and the United States. We thank the mediators from Qatar, Egypt, Turkey, who worked with us to make this historic and unprecedented event happen. Blessed are the peacemakers, the president. And I have to be honest, he sent it to me. He says, Mark, this is a great deal for Israel and the entire world. Just out. You have it first. Love President Trump. Now, first of all, Congressman, I have great faith in President Trump. He is a strong supporter of Israel. He's been his entire life, and he's demonstrated that. He's been much stronger than most of the people who are even around him, and much stronger than most. He's been the best friend Israel has had, so that's a very important fact. I will, of course, want to see all the details as well. I'm sure you will, too. But what do you make of this? It's kind of hard to make a whole lot out of it, but it would be a blessed day if the hostages get out, right?
Well, no question, Mark. I think all of us have been staunch in our support of Israel, and not only their right to defend themselves, but the right of the Jewish people to practice their faith without fear of persecution or facing a terrorist attack, which is exactly what we saw on October 7th. As we commemorated the 2-year anniversary. It's hard to believe it's been 2 years. President Trump has worked tirelessly since taking office to, number one, get the hostages home, including the 2 Americans that remain in captivity. They are deceased, Omir Nutra and Itai Chen. Both of their families deserve closure. They deserve to have their sons back home so they can give them a proper burial. President Trump has been working tirelessly along with his team to not only secure a peace deal, but to get these hostages home. And I think obviously as part of the first phase here, we want these hostages released. I've made clear, as I know you believe, there can be no backsliding here. Hamas cannot remain in power. And once the hostages are released, the second phase obviously will need to be implemented, but there can be no peace with Hamas in power. And I've been clear about that from the start, and will certainly accept nothing less.
Mm-hmm. I'm with you, and you've been fantastic. It's interesting. You still have Qatar funding our colleges and universities. They play a double game. This is going to have to work its way out, because I'm not going to stop criticizing Qatar. I'm not going to stop demanding that they stop poisoning our schools and colleges and our businesses and our politics. They spread billions around. They had a role in 9/11. They had a very direct role in October 7th. They had a role with the Taliban. And look, they haven't been forced to swear off anything, Mike. And at some point, this has to be confronted.
Ultimately, Qatar is going to have to choose a side. You can't play all sides, and you can't be everything to everyone. Obviously, throughout these 2 years, in one respect, they've been helpful in trying to work through the hostage negotiations. But on the other hand, they house Al Jazeera. They house Hamas's leadership. And so, from my vantage point, there needs to be a very honest and forthright discussion with the Qataris as we move forward. But, again, it goes back to the number one priority here has been to get the hostages home. And to that end, they have been helpful. But to your larger point, there are a lot of things that still have to be addressed, including their funding of education here in the United States, which includes curriculum that wipes Israel off the face of the earth and off of maps that are being used in New York City public schools. which is just insane.
Let's talk about this situation with the Democrats and the government and the shutdown and all the rest. People were getting into Mike Johnson's face, and you stepped up to defend him. And then you confronted, I thought, in a very civil way, Hakeem Jeffries, who got very offended very quickly and wanted to give you the talking points. You weren't interested in the talking points. You were interested in having a discussion with him. Mr. Producer, let's pull that clip. It's hard to hear exactly. We're going to play part of this, and then I'd like you to respond to it if you don't mind, Congressman. Go ahead, Rich.
Why don't we sign on right now? Let me ask you a question. Did you get permission from your boss?
Why don't we sign on right now?
Did your boss, Donald Trump?
You can easily extend the ACA right now.
Did your boss, Donald Trump,
He's not my boss.
Yes, he is.
No, he's not. And by the way,
let me ask you a
why
question.
did you vote to shut the government down? Why did you vote to shut it down?
Let me ask you a question.
For years, you always lectured about how we need to keep the government open.
You're making a show of this to make yourself relevant.
It's sad. You could easily sign on to this.
You're embarrassing yourself right now.
You could sign on to this. The only embarrassment here is you.
You're an embarrassment.
You could sign on to the bill.
Let me ask you a question.
You have 4 Democrats on here. Why won't you sign on to it?
Let me ask you a question.
It's a clean extension for 1 year.
You voted for the one big ugly bill, correct?
I voted for a tax cut bill that gave the largest tax cut to Americans in history, including, by the way, the average New Yorker getting a $4,000 tax cut. Are you against that?
You're embarrassing yourself right now.
Do you want to cut this?
All right, let's stop right there because it goes on, and you'll notice, America, Hakeem Jeffries is very personal in his attacks on you, Michael Lawler. And the other thing is, does he not realize that you fought for up to a $40,000 deduction, up from $10,000 that blue states desperately wanted? And by the way, so did I. So do red states. But you get the point. And he keeps talking about tax cuts for billionaires when that's going to help the middle class massively. Yeah, I want you to respond to him, to me.
It was remarkable, Mark. He couldn't answer a single question. He was stuttering, stammering, yelling, pointing his finger at me. And he really just refused to answer my basic points, which was, number one, he voted to shut the government down. In fact, I voted 3 weeks ago to keep the government open and funded. And he and his Democratic cohorts voted to shut it down because they're petrified of AOC, Zohran Mamdani, and the radical left. The bottom line
I want to pursue this. It's a bad time to have a hard break. I want to continue. This is very, very important. So don't go away, America. We'll be right back with Congressman Mike Lawler of New York. We're coming upon the 250th birthday of the United States, and it has me thinking, what will America look like 250 years from now? My friends at the Heritage Foundation want to know what you think. What policies should America prioritize? What principles should carry us into the decades ahead? As America enters a new golden age, Heritage recognizes that this is the time to take stock and to be intentional about how we shape the future of America. And they can't do it without your input. So please go to heritage.org/LEVIN and let them know what you think is important. Without patriots like you stepping up and speaking up for what you believe in, America as we know it can't survive for another 250 years. Please go to heritage.org/Levin, heritage.org/LEVIN. Take the survey on America's future. This survey takes less than 10 minutes to complete, but it is critical for making sure that the America we pass on to future generations is an America we're proud of. Go to heritage.org/Levin today. That's heritage.org/LEVIN. Paid for by the Heritage Foundation. We have Representative Mike Lawler with us. Now, we read the statement from the president. Here's the statement from the Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu. It says, a big day for Israel. I will convene the government tomorrow to approve the agreement and bring all our precious hostages home. I thank the heroic IDF soldiers and all the security forces, thanks to whose courage and sacrifice we have reached this day. I thank President Trump and his team from the bottom of my heart for their commitment to this sacred mission of freeing our hostages. With God's help, together, we will continue to achieve all our goals and expand peace with our neighbors. That's Benjamin Netanyahu. What do you make of that, Congressman Lawler?
I think it's obviously a very positive development and certainly appreciate the Prime Minister's words. You know, the reality is because of what Benjamin Netanyahu has done and because of what the IDF has done, the Middle East is in a better place today than it was prior to October 7th. Hamas and Hezbollah have been largely decimated. Iran's air defense and nuclear capabilities have been demolished. Syria has fallen under Assad's regime. So the Middle East is in a position where we can actually bring about peace and stability. And President Trump is the right person in this moment to do it.
Do you think this is part of the reason why Netanyahu is so hated by the leftist governments all over Europe and by leftists in America and anti-Semites on the right in America? They keep focusing on trashing Netanyahu. You make a point that's so important. Really, none of this is possible. The foundation couldn't have been laid for this, but for the success of Israel militarily.
No question. This never would have happened. And I think, obviously the United States has been a strong partner and an ally of Israel every step of the way. But the decisions that were made by Israel ultimately are what laid this foundation. And I just, I hearken back. You look at what happened on 9/11 and the aftermath of 9/11 and what the United States did to hold those accountable. Nobody was saying it was a genocide. Nobody was demanding the U.S. not defend themselves. Israel has not only a right, it has an obligation to do so, to protect its citizens. And by the way, you have over 700,000 Americans living in Israel. Okay, it's the size of almost a congressional district in terms of Americans living there. So when people ask, why does Israel matter to the United States? It matters not only because of our shared values and heritage and culture and the Judeo-Christian values that are at the foundation of our Constitution. It matters because Americans live there. And this is not just an attack on Israel, it's an attack on America.
Now let's get back to this Hakeem Jeffries. It's funny. They talk about we want to fix our healthcare system. It's because Obamacare is a failure. Obamacare is a black hole. People get very poor coverage at a very high rate. We were told this would fix our healthcare system. So now the Democrats, what are they, Houdini? The Democrats here are, number one, a continuing resolution, as you pointed out to Jeffries. Look, we just need to carry us forward to finish the appropriations process. Then they say, well, we want to make this a healthcare issue. What's the problem? Obamacare. What's the problem? They're funding illegal aliens. They really are just trying to duke this out within the Democrat Party against Democrats, are they not?
Completely. Look, this is entirely about the pressures they're feeling from the left, both in terms of policy, but also in terms of quote unquote standing up to Trump. And that's all this is about. But let's focus in on the healthcare for a second. Since 2010, when Obamacare passed, healthcare premiums in the United States have risen by over 60%. Obamacare was supposed to solve this problem. It was supposed to cut down healthcare costs for Americans and increase access. And it's done anything but that. And so the only way for this to be affordable is for subsidies to be put in place. These subsidies, which, okay, I'm fine extending it by a year to give people time to help ensure that people don't get sticker shock. And I've signed on to legislation to do that. And part of the reason I went to go see Hakeem Jeffries today was to say to him, look, if you're so serious about this, sign on to this 1-year extension. Why won't you sign on to this bill? And he had no answers whatsoever because nobody's called him out on it, because it's all a bunch of nonsense. Meanwhile, in New York, Tom DiNapoli, the Democratic controller, comes out with a report that $1.2 billion of taxpayer funds were spent on non-New York State residents for Medicaid premiums. People who don't live in New York taxpayers are paying for their health care. And that's before you even get to the illegals that New York has been spending billions of dollars on health care to. And Kathy Hochul came to Washington and testified when I asked her point blank, do you support using taxpayer money to provide free health care to illegal immigrants? And she said yes. And she admitted that she expanded Medicaid in New York to do it. So if Jeffries and Schumer are so against this now, as they claim, then they should be demanding Kathy Hochul immediately end those taxpayer subsidies on Medicaid to illegal immigrants. But they're not, and we know they're not. They're full of it.
Yeah, they're they won't oppose these subsidies, and yet he's barking at you about tax cuts you got for the vast majority of your constituents, middle class, hardworking firefighters, police officers, electricians, plumbers, everybody. But You and a handful of others fought for that. And by the way, I was proud of you because I agree with you. I thought it was ridiculous, but not because it's blue state, red state. It's because it's taxpayers, individual taxpayers.
It's double taxation.
And
it's
look what you've achieved. And he's opposed to it.
Well, it was remarkable. I mean, for New York, the average New Yorker is going to get a $4,000 tax cut under this bill, in large measure because we were able to lift the cap on state and local taxes and your ability to deduct that. And he opposed what we did. He was ranting and raving that it's tax cuts for the billionaires. We put in income limits. The only people who qualify are those making $500,000 or less. That's not the millionaires and the billionaires. So the fact is, we produced tax cuts for New Yorkers in a state that is besieged by high taxes. And then you got Zohran Mamdani out there who's talking about raising taxes by $9 billion on an annual basis. It's crazy.
Mm-hmm. First of all, you got those tax cuts for everybody. I just want to be clear to the entire audience.
No question.
Everybody in every state who earns under $500,000.
Regardless. No question. And by the way, Mark, you look at Texas. Texas saw their property taxes go up 37% over the last few years. People are going to benefit significantly from these tax cuts that we implemented under this working families tax cut bill.
By the way, you want to talk about a radical? I don't think there should be any limit on it. You're lucky you got what you got. Don't get me wrong. You fought like hell for it. But prior to all this, there was no limit on it. Period.
Correct. It was unlimited.
Yeah. All right. Listen, and then the last thing I want to ask you about is this. This ICE stuff, these Democrat mayors and these Democrat governors, they don't have the right, they don't have the constitutional power to prevent the federal government from finding particularly illegal aliens, but criminal illegal aliens, and removing them from the country. What is up with these governors and these mayors?
They have lost all perspective and all reality. Look, we are a generous people, and we are a generous nation, and we welcome immigrants into this country. My wife is an immigrant. But the fact is that you cannot allow this chaos to continue. President Trump has secured the border. He stopped this massive influx of illegal immigration, 5 straight months of net zero illegal border crossing, which is unheard of in American history. And then you have Democratic mayors and governors refusing to cooperate with federal law enforcement, federal immigration and customs officials, and preventing them from doing their job, allowing ICE agents to be assaulted, to be impeded, to be barricaded. It is outrageous. It is wrong. And they should be held accountable for it.
Mm-hmm. Tell us about your race, and if people want to help you in New York or around the country, where do they go?
They can go to lawlerforcongress.com or text Mike to 85007. I have one of the most competitive races in the country. Kamala Harris won my district, one of only 3 Republicans in Congress in a district that Harris won. And as Hakeem Jeffries said today, I have a big target on my back, and they're going to make my district number 1. But the reality is my district's the difference between having a House Republican majority or not. So we need everybody's help. If you can donate, please go to lawlerforcongress.com.
All right, America, lawlerforcongress.com is my strong endorsement. Lawlerforcongress.com, lawlerforcongress.com. He's targeted by Hakeem Jeffries. And Jeffries looked very, very cocky today, but he was outrageous. He was, just personal attacks. If that's the best they can do, well, maybe they do need a different guy as their leader. Mike Lawler, thank you, my friend. Keep up the good work.
Thanks, Mark. Appreciate it.
All right, you take care of yourself.